This episode of Rookie Hunter is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation. Sheep Show is coming up soon, January 18th to 20th in Reno, Nevada. Get your tickets now before they sell out. Join the Lesson 1 Club and become a member of the Wild Sheep Foundation by going to wildsheepfoundation.org. Hey there, we're back. This is episode 141. We're kind of treating this like an episode 1 since this is the first time the three of us have officially done Rookie Hunter together as a solidified unit. I guess that's the best way to put it. And so we did a bit of a rewind, kind of went over some favorite memories from past years. And it was great to be back. We hope you guys enjoy this. If you heard the trailer we put out a couple weeks back, encouraging people to get involved, and we want you guys to send in voice memos. And you can do that by sending them to our email address, which is info@therookiehunter.com. So everybody who has a iPhone has the ability to record a voice memo. So all you have to do is record a question, a thought, or an idea, and email it to us. I can even edit it for you and make it sound good, so don't worry about that. And if we like it, we will include it on the show. You can also just reach out to us via text, again, to our email address, info@therookiehunter.com. You can also follow along and connect with us on Instagram. Our handle is Rookie Hunter Podcast. Just search for us and you'll find us. It would be great if you joined us over there. And of course, I should mention that we have partnered again with the Wild Sheep Foundation as our title sponsor. That's very exciting news for us, and we really just can't thank them enough for putting their trust in the message that we're sharing with you guys. We would love it if you supported them by going to their website, wildsheepfoundation.org, and consider becoming a member. You can also just get signed up on their email list. You can follow along with them on Instagram too. You can find out more about your chapter or affiliate from the Wild Sheep Foundation, and you can volunteer with them. You can become a member of them. I'm a member of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, but do what you can. You don't have to, of course, no pressure, but we would love it. By supporting them, you're, of course, supporting Wild Sheep and WSF's commitment to put and keep wild sheep on the mountain. So thank you for considering it. Thank you for heading over to their website. But let's just get right back into it. Sit back, relax, crack an ice-cold beer, or in our case, throw a little whiskey on the rocks, and enjoy episode 141 of Rookie Hunter. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good. Mr. Marcon?
Good. How are you boys doing?
Yeah, no complaints.
Did you guys do anything special this long weekend? Did you get out at all or what?
Well, you know what? So Friday, I was working in the afternoon. This is the last day of 4-point mule deer in the Okanagan. That was Friday, right?
The 10th.
Yeah. So okay, I'm going to finish up work here real quick and try and get out of here fast. But the thing is, it's dark at the sun is going down at 4, basically. So I'm scrambling. It's 2:30 and I'm going to drive up to the grow spot. I'll call it, Kelly. You know where I'm talking about, just for fun. Yeah. So I could do a bit of both. So I grabbed my pack and I thought everything was in there. Grabbed my 22 and my 30-06 and thought, whatever, I'll just bring both and see what happens. So I get onto the sort of the main road and knew there'd be some chickens. So I pull over to pull up my 22. Frickin' forgot my shells and my clip, but I had the key for the trigger lock. It's God damn it. And then sure enough, 2 minutes down the road, there's grouse on the road. So no luck there. And then I get to the spot where I want to get out and hike and maybe hopefully find a mule deer. I have everything from my 30-06, go to grab the keys for the trigger lock. Didn't have the right keys. So both of my rifles were not usable. So I was Jesus. I didn't end up seeing anything.
It was not meant to happen, Mike.
No, exactly. I'm whatever. We've got lots of meat in the freezer and Earl doesn't have to be on leash, so he's going to have a good time. We just went for a nice hike, and it was kind of cool. Kelly, you know that spot, how weather really kind of comes through. There's always a bit of fog up there if it's like a chance of rain. We hiked, one of our first hunts was up there, Kelly, and it got all foggy on us and stuff. There's pictures of us where I'm wearing blue jeans and stuff.
I do remember. I think there's some videos too.
Yeah. So it was like that. It was cool. And the trees were kind of like frosty with a bit of ice on them. There was snow on the ground up there. And yeah, so it ended up being just a cool hike. But man, I didn't really see any tracks again, which I had explained to you. I was hiking around in there a few weeks before after it had snowed and didn't see any tracks. And other than the buck that Randy and I saw on the moose hunt, I have not seen one buck anywhere, which is weird, in 4 different places.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting...
Well, there's a lot around town, as usual. We haven't been out a ton this year.
I was getting out a fair bit in the beginning before we left for the moose hunt.
Oh, okay.
Not a ton, but enough where I feel like I should have seen at least a young buck, but honestly didn't even see anything really for does either. Weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about you, Garrett?
I didn't get out that much. I got out once there, but I loaded my pack up and went out for mule deer. And I don't ever remember my pack weighing that much. I didn't feel like I had anything in there, man. Like I put some rain gear, some water, the bare essentials. I picked the thing up. I was like, holy crap, I'm out of shape. So the thing felt like it was 200 pounds. And then I got up there and there was so much snow. So I was hiking through snow. So I was like, I got to really toughen up here because, man, it was kicking the shit out of me.
Oh, yeah. You sent me a picture of that. It was all foggy.
Yeah, it was like a blizzard out. I mean, I figured out pretty quickly all the deer are starting to move down in the lower country. But, I mean, it was good to get up there and go for a hike. And I definitely got to start working out a little more because it's not what it used to be, that's for sure. At least not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went, actually, Mike and I were supposed to go out, I think, what was that, Thursday or Friday, something like that, kind of catch the end of the muley season, right? And we were going to go out kind of higher elevation and for one last push kind of thing. So I thought I'm going to bring the quad again and we'll, get as high as we can and hike from there. So I get all that ready, get all the truck ready, get all my packing stuff ready. And then, got to bed and I was so tired I just didn't even bother the next morning. Yeah, I don't know. It's just tough, There's lots going on with everything like we talked about last time. So I find once in a while you have a day like that where it's just like it kind of takes all your energy just to get ready. And then, it was like, you know what? Sleeping in seems like a pretty good idea today. Hang out with James.
Nice. Yeah.
So then I had to repack everything again. So good times.
Yeah, we were talking about, I mean, it just kind of deflates there. Not deflates there, already tires, but takes the motivation away. If we hadn't got anything, we probably would be out there like every minute we could.
Yeah.
But there's not really any incentive when we have a lot of meat. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time.
How much did you guys end up with? Did you guys weigh it all when you were done?
Once it was all off the bone.
It's like a couple hundred
pounds, yeah.
That we brought in. And then we had like back straps and all the other stuff kind of cut on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made out with a whole bunch of ground, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, so 200 pounds of ground meat, and then the rest was all the back straps and tenderloins and stuff that we didn't weigh. So yeah, we ended up with a ton of meat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Enough. It's always nice to have a little bit of variety. I'm not complaining, obviously. It's just nice when you got a bit of mule deer or whitetail. And I do have snowshoe hare in the freezer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from earlier.
What are you planning on doing with that? I
don't know. I've done like this beer braised hare in the past. That was really good.
Nice.
It's funny though, man, because I kind of took a hiatus from hunting over the last couple of years, which we talked about a bit. So getting back into cooking has kind of been an interesting thing for me because it's such there's a learning curve to it, you know what I mean? And the more you do it, you kind of master it to some degree. Not master it, but you kind of trial and error when you're working with these leaner meats and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm relearning it to some degree, which is fun. I'm enjoying it. But I feel like I'm starting all over again with it.
Yeah, because you cooked some of the backstrap of the moose, eh?
Yeah.
And It worked out pretty good.
Worked out pretty good. I overcooked it a little bit, but yeah, not enough to not enjoy it. It wasn't like tough and chewy. It's just I like it a little more on the rare side when you're dealing with that cut of meat. So,
do you have a sous vide?
No, but that's something that would be great, and that's what I was trying to like emulate a little bit by cooking it at I think at 225, so you don't risk like going too far over when you're cooking that low of a temperature, right? But I was explaining to you guys, I have like the upper part of my oven, and there's like a lower baking shelf that you can cook at lower temperatures. So I was using that, and the hard part is it's like a shelf that comes out, and there's no window, so you can't see in there. So I hate that part of it. You don't want to be opening it constantly and like letting all the heat out and that. So there's a little bit of guesswork. Like, you can tell a little bit just by looking at it sometimes, but when it's totally out of visual range, it's kind of like, shit, I don't know what's going on in there. But yeah, it all worked out. It was good.
Nice.
But sous vide would be kind of a cool thing to do because there's no way to cook it beyond whatever you set it for, right?
Yeah. I'm going to cook a mousse lasagna. I got all the stuff, but I just haven't been able to pull it together quite yet. That's the kind of stuff I like doing with the ground, just random stuff that you would make generally. But now you get the benefit of having the premium moose meat in there, right? So it's nice.
Right before we hopped on here, I had moose bolognese, the fettuccine for dinner. So I made that a couple weeks ago, froze some of it. Really good. Happy with that for sure. Yeah.
Do you guys keep any roasts?
No.
No?
No.
We took the and we might I can't remember if we mentioned this, but we took the back straps, we took the tenderloins, and then we pretty much ground everything else because we had 4 guys, and all 4 guys just wanted to have like a good amount of grind, and then at that point you can kind of do what you want with it, make sausages, make pepperoni, keep it as ground, do whatever. So
nice.
It's tough when you get into it because you're like, fuck, I just want to be done with this and not make it too complicated. But maybe we should have set like one roast aside for the 2 of us to cook on some occasion or something like that. Would have been kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
It's an interesting topic. It's like the dynamics of hunting with more than 2 people, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a lot of pros and cons, whether you're solo hunting or group hunting or whatever. But it goes right down to like the meat processing and, just that whole process too. And I agree, like there's an element of like strike a balance, keep it as simple as possible,
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we landed for sure.
We had a roaster. My father-in-law did one up. He's a pretty good cook, and he did one up. I want to say like in it's either a slow cooker or a pressure cooker, and it was unreal. I don't want to say it's better than elk because I've always think elk is awesome, but that was pretty damn good. Moose is delicious, and for that reason, right there, yeah.
Yeah, what's that thing you have, Kelly? The what's it called? The slow cooker.
Instapot?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got some slow cookers, and I've got the Instapot, which I haven't used a lot lately, but I did do like a fish chowder thing in that one time, and it turned out perfect. Like everything I've used it for is never messed up, but I just never really find myself coming down to grab it.
Right.
So maybe I should try that, It's just one more thing it's just another kitchen toy, right?
Yeah.
It's like gets put in storage and then you're out looking for it. But what I was also going to mention, like with that meat is as you get more people, the ability to kind of get a variety of stuff goes down too, right? Because like the more you're portioning it out, it's just, you kind of start gravitating to one thing because then at least you'll get a good amount of that one thing. You start splitting things 4 ways across with 4 different people. And it's like, okay, well, I got 7 pounds of sausages, 7 pounds of pepperoni. It's gone in a day.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it starts pushing you in that direction too.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
But I was thinking back to the elk. I mean, the elk too, we had 4 guys there and we made out with a lot of meat from that elk. I actually think that elk was bigger than the moose.
Yeah, it definitely was. I remember with the elk, just the brisket alone on that thing, the amount of meat under there was insane, man. Like that thing was, that was a large animal.
Yeah.
I
mean, you're talking like a younger moose versus like an end of life elk, basically.
Yeah.
Or, two different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, your go-to cooking, your tried and true that hasn't failed, like you're saying, your pressure cooker or that sous vide you guys are talking about, or even the smoker I
Yeah.
have. I don't think I've turned out one bad meal on that thing. I just keep
Nice.
going back to it because I know I'm going to get something good every time. Although I like being adventurous once in a while. You got to try different things, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
absolutely.
seems with wild game, you're a little bit more cautious because you don't want to screw it up. That's kind of where my head is. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, well, it's like this precious thing that, I mean, it's
Yeah,
not like you can just go and buy more of it, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely that element of it for sure. You don't want to mess it up, but I mean, even if you do, you know you're going to eat it anyways because you're not going to
Oh,
waste
totally. Yeah,
it. Yeah,
You might be eating it by yourself. But
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Just chewing on one piece of meat for 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool guys. Well, I mean, this is kind of like I'm thinking of this as like an episode 1. This is, I think, the first time that the three of us are on this show together as like a trio, not me leaving and Garrett coming in or whatever. How did we ever do it where it was the three of us, like without me being on my way out? Or
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. So I thought for that reason, and because it's been like 2 years since we've really put much out, we could probably just remind people of, I mean, where the three of us come from. And that story between Kelly and I is pretty well developed, but we can sort of do a recap on that. But Garrett and I are first cousins. We've grown up together pretty much like brothers. I mean, we grew up on 2 different sides of the train tracks, basically, and just outside of Trail and the Kootenays, and pretty much did everything together as kids and spent a shitload of time. I mean, all of our time was pretty much spent outdoors, and spent a lot of time doing redneck shit as kids, shooting 22s and all kinds of stuff and hiking up behind your place. So the outdoors have been pretty prevalent in our lives together and our upbringing, and tons of hiking and mountain biking and all that kind of stuff. And then Kelly and I, well, the three of us all grew up in the same town, the surrounding areas of Trail, BC anyways. Kelly, you and I didn't meet until high school and didn't really connect until we moved up here to Kelowna and started playing in a band together and all that. So we all of three of us have known each other for a long time, and all of our parents know each other and all that. So there's a lot of history there, but hunting, I think, really is the thing that brought all of us together. So it's pretty cool that it's, I mean, that aspect alone, that it's been the thing that's really kept three of us close, and it's how you and Garrett got to really know each other. So, I mean, there's the quick version of it. That's how we all came together, basically.
Yeah, it's crazy that we all kind of gravitated to ultimately this, I guess, hobby, this interest. And we're all on the same page in terms of how we approach it, pretty much. Like we're all different when we're out in the field and how we kind of think about situations and days and minutes when we're out there. But we're a perfect balance, I think, when we're out there as a hunting party. And then wider lens in terms of how we think about conservation, how we got into hunting like more seriously. I think it correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we all kind of started getting serious into it at the same time, even though, we each kind of came from a different background of how, exposed we were to hunting before. Like I was probably the least. And, I know you guys were both exposed to hunting, and Garrett, your dad's been hunting forever too. So, but I feel like we kind of all hit the ground running around the same time.
Yeah. One of the interesting things too, Garrett, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you've been going out with your dad and all of his friends and their hunting party since you were a young teenager, basically, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I didn't realize though, when you told Kelly and I that you hadn't really harvested anything on your own up until the three of us started hunting together. Is that right? Or am I?
Pretty close. No, I think I got a deer there when we were growing up. I didn't really actually, take it on fully until you guys, just because it was kind of one of those things where I tagged along with them and I was there, and I never really kind of felt, was lucky enough to follow their lead and be there and be invited to go, which
Yeah.
I'm super appreciative of. You know what? You know, for blazing the trail on my own. It wasn't until like, you know, I started listening when you guys, Mike and Kelly, you started putting the podcast out and talking about getting into it and taking it on. I never really, you know, really went out after it for myself or did anything, you know, personally, like planned a hunt, went after it. I always just kind of took their lead. Like when I say they're my dad and his friends, and was lucky enough to join in. And it was kind of more of just like a camping trip, you know? So, you know, when you guys talk about the rookie hunter and you guys being rookies and Blaze, I know some people might say different when they hear my story because I got to dabble into it a little bit, but I never really fully submerged myself in it until it really, you guys inspired me to kind of more or less pick it up again and get after it. So that's what it was. Like you said, I got to build this friendship with you guys and Kelly. I mean, I know we're family, Mike, and we probably would have always stayed in touch, but the hunting thing kind of, you guys definitely sailed that ship and I was able to jump in there with you guys, which I'm super appreciative of. And it's been awesome. It's been a journey.
When we did our first hike-in trip off the Alaska highway, that was the first time the three of us, all of us, had done something like that. So it was kind of cool to approach that from a rookie aspect of not really knowing what the hell we were getting into, even though we had all had like very different experiences, like with hunting and camping and backpacking and all that kind of stuff. That was the first time any of us had done anything like that, which became pretty obvious.
Yeah. I remember I bought like an insane amount of trail mix and I was putting it all together and I picked up my backpack the first time, again, going back to how heavy your pack weighs. And I had to take, I don't know how many pounds of trail mix out of my backpack for that hunt. I had like 3 maybe giant Ziploc bags of like full trail mix that I had to cut out of it thinking, I got to eat this. Otherwise I'm going to starve.
Yeah. You had a heavy
hilarious.
pack that trip, man. I think you still ended up around like 80 or something pounds, didn't you?
I feel like I'm always the idiot with the heaviest pack. I don't know what's in that damn thing. I keep taking stuff out of it.
4 pounds of salt.
I did. I had packed salt.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I think even back to like when we first started, you know, getting our first deer, and when I got my 4-point, I don't know what the hell I had in my backpack, but I had to completely empty it, pack out the deer, and then go back and get all my shit. So I had to do 2 trips to go and get this, to get it out of there, right? And now I'm going out with my pack and there's like nothing in it except for the essentials. So I have no idea what the fuck I was jamming in that backpack, but I remember it being heavy and I probably had like my stove with me and like meals for a couple of days. I have no idea what I was packing, but the more you get out there, the lighter and lighter your pack gets, for sure. It's kind of funny, but you definitely have to start there because you're always like, oh, what if I need this? What if I need this? And then you realize I don't really need that. Or you can spread out the weight between, you know, multiple guys and not have a bunch of duplicates of certain things.
Like I'm at the end of the spectrum now where it's like, how much water am I really going to drink? Like I'm playing that now. Like I've cut out most of my stuff. Now I'm like, I'm not packing all this water in here. This stuff weighs a ton. And there's times where that's burned me, but other times where I fill up my water bladder and I'm like, that's too much weight. I'm dumping some of this out.
Yeah. Yeah. Water weight is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those slow, I feel like we have learned that lesson maybe a little too slow, you know, like a lot of stuff we take is just cool to take because you have it, right? So you're like, oh, you know, I want to take this, I'm going to take that. Like you can kind of think about your hunt. A lot of times you don't need a spotter. A lot of times you do, like you should bring it. There's things that you need to bring, you know, regardless, even though you know it's going to kick your ass a bit. But yeah, the water and the, you know, the stoves and like, there's just, you know, I think we're getting pretty good at the day hunts or overnight hunts now where we can go in pretty light at this point and keep it safe still.
Yeah.
There's other things that I'm slow learner on, like, you know, you mentioned that Alaska highway hiking, and like I find every hunt we get to a point where I kind of like lose it a bit and I'm like, why are we doing horse hunts without any horses, you know? And there's like that midpoint in the hunt where I just got to get, you know, go through it and then I'm fine again. And then what the funny thing is, like I get home a year later, I'm planning a hunt, and I'll put the exact same thing together and be like stoked that we're gonna go do it. Like we were just talking about going on this hunt in 2024, and I'm trying to push this route again, which is most likely going to end up in the same situation. So I don't know. There's some things you just don't learn, right? It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think it keeps calling you back for a reason. And
yeah,
as much as it can suck in the moment sometimes, I think when you look back on it, you're like, that was pretty awesome. Even you forget about all the pain and suffering and all the mental torture. And I mean, you come out of those things kind of a different person sometimes. So it's good to do it, I guess.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing next year. I don't know if we know, but like the one thing I have started is riding the bike and doing, so I'll ride the bike and do weights, like just pretty much focusing lower body, like glutes. So I'll ride the bike for half an hour and then do that for half an hour every second day. And I'm like 3 or 4 weeks into it now. And I feel like a different person from like the waist down, man. It's something that I ignored probably for the first 30 years of my life, because I was always just doing stuff, like all of us. We're mountain biking and hiking and skiing and snowboarding and all that. And you get away with it. But I don't think we can get away with it anymore. And it's evident at this point. For me, I had a couple cases of like IT and all that. And it's about strength, I think. So yeah, I'm trying to get myself prepped here, starting like a month ago for whatever we end up doing in the future.
Sounds like you're not skipping leg day, Kelly. You're going to have just fucking jack legs and noodle arms.
I'm yeah. So it might take some time to even it out, actually, because I already have chicken legs. So if it ever starts swinging that way, just let me know. You might want to hit some push-ups, buddy.
Yeah, it's nice. I think that's one of the things I missed is the moment that we started talking about doing a hunt next year. I mean, it doesn't matter where we end up, but it like flicks a switch in your brain.
Yeah,
3 times a week, I'm running up knocks and stuff like that, and just trying to do some more endurance training. And I have plans for the following weeks here, and just kind of getting myself back into it slowly. Try not to be a moron this time, and because that's how I always get myself in trouble. It's okay, I'm running, I'm going to go do 20K or whatever. Then you hurt yourself, and then you're out of the game for months rather than taking it slow and doing it proper. So learned that lesson too, I guess.
I run the hounds my days off, but it's not anything like it's not a workout. It's more of just like I go up the mountain and run them for like maybe a couple kilometers, but it's nothing like putting a heavy pack on and scaling up, vertical feet. That adds a totally different, that kind of workout is, oh man, it's extremely different when you put like a 50, 60 pound pack on and try to get up the mountain. Yeah. So that's what I got to get back into. Just start, like you guys said, start small and then just start logging the hours of walking.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, Kelly and I were talking about that too, starting to think about getting out there with the pack and then slowly adding little bits of weight to it over time and working up to it. But it's nice that we're already thinking about it, because you don't want to be in that position where it's 2 weeks from the hunt and you're going, fuck, should have prepared for this. And then you're worried about it. And then it's just messing with your head the whole time when you're out there.
Well, you definitely don't want to be the dud that's dragging everybody else down.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that one.
Yeah.
Either that, Kelly, or we'll just crowbar Mike in the leg and then he'll be at the same pace as us.
I mean, we've all been that person when it happened to me on the sheep hunt with you and I, Garrett.
Yeah.
That one day we hiked up into that saddle.
Yeah.
Man, I was in pain. I don't know what was going on. And then,
but I mean, you got a completely different stride than us. Like you can cover a lot more ground. I think that's the thing. Like we're talking about, we're all on the same page of hunting, but there's definitely, you try to want to match each other in terms of endurance, strength, but it definitely, when you get going, man, you can take off. Like and it can be a challenge to try to keep up to you. I just say like the hell with it. You go, I'll get there, but I'll get there on my own terms.
That's how you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it for me is kind of like a mental thing. I'm like, this is, visually, I'm like, I see a spot. I'm like, I want to get to that. And I just put my head down and I'm not stopping until I get there. So it's kind of like a stubbornness, which might not be a good thing. But I just know I want to get to that point and then I'm going to stop, take a break or eat something or whatever. But I mean, pros and cons to that approach, I guess.
Me too. It's mental. I'm like, I don't want to be left behind and die.
Dear.
Mike's got all the cooking stuff. I don't want to be left back here and die.
Yeah. No, but like you do have a pretty good eye for deer too, even though you're moving quick. But yeah, there's I mean, that's a good thing too. We can all mix it up a little bit. I mean, we don't have to all get there at the same time, and maybe somebody will see a deer like third person back, right? So
yeah, I mean, it all depends like what it is. If we're just trying to get to camp, then fuck it, I'm putting my head down and I just want to get it over with. If we're hunting, it's a different story, and I try to slow it down for sure in those situations.
Oh no, we're always looking out for each other when we're walking. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if we have a goal in mind where we need to get to, I know it's like, okay, Mike's got the marathon legs. We'll get there. We'll all get there. We're always looking out for each other's safety. So, but it sounds like what we're planning next year is going to be a backpack hunt. If I'm getting what you guys are throwing down, right?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, we'll have weight. We just don't know.
Yet.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a couple, 2-3 options that we're looking at right now, and all 3 of them are unique in their own way and all equally amazing, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's we're talking about just how lucky we are that we kind of have to like not argue, but like compromise on what we want to do because there's so many options. It's almost overwhelming. We could do so much shit here. Mm-hmm. So settling on what we want to do is tough. But
I know we live in BC, but I mean, BC, for the people who don't know, you have a little of everything here. You got mountains, you got prairies, there's a lot of different, but it seems like the 3 of us always go towards the mountains. Am I wrong on that? Or would you guys agree with that?
No.
I mean, when I think, so if I'm going to like visualize the perfect hunt, it's big mountains for sure. But on the other side of that, like, I mean, Kelly and I didn't grow up in the Okanagan, and there's something about the desert that I really love, like this landscape. I really enjoy being in it for whatever reason. I just like the way it looks, and it's totally different. It's a 180 from mountain hunting to, even though we're still in, mountain terrain, it's just completely different, and it's very open.
Yeah, I think even though it's not like an alpine, in most cases, not an alpine mountain hunt, I think that it's still mountainous and it's rugged and it will just kick you around. Like you got to be, it's, it'll wreck your boots. It's jagged rocks. It's, depending on where you are, there's rattlesnakes. There's like just different, conditions for sure. But I don't know. I kind of lump BC into mountains, I guess, in general.
Yeah.
You can't go too far without hitting one.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, I think we're all on the same page as far as like what we all visualize as like the hunt, Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I'm getting to. It's because when the 3 of us get together, we don't pull up our maps and, Google Earth, whatever we're looking at. We find the flattest part. We go, okay, this is what we're going to do here.
No.
We usually find like the gnarliest shit and then go, we got to get up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I wrong or no?
No, it's usually the most ridiculous thing we can find.
Yeah.
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 That's why we remember them.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Hey, another thing I wanted to bring up with this being sort of a relaunch of Rookie Hunter, what are you guys sort of visualizing for the podcast, and what are you hoping to bring to it?
I think that it just felt like something was missing not having it, and I think part of that is the camaraderie piece and like us getting together, all 3 of us, and taking a break from life and having a drink, chatting, planning that next hunt, which is, I think it's one of the funnest things to do, right? Is planning that next hunt. And I probably drive you guys insane. If I get into my modes of mapping and options, but that's a ton of fun. I feel like just having this podcast in the backdrop of like what our story is, which is kind of what the purpose is anyway, connects it all better for me.
Yeah.
For year to year to year to year. And it gives me like goals. It gives me a reason to work out. It gives me, those things to look forward to, and stories coming, like with James, we talked about. So like, it kind of gives you like a telescope almost. So you're not just thinking about a month ahead, right? You're kind of thinking about a year ahead all the time. And it's fun to think about that in the context of the podcast. And then, so I just want to hang out, join an episode a month kind of. Everything else is pretty busy, so I don't know how much I'll be on beyond then, but hang out with you guys, plan some hunts, do that, catch up on all of them, kind of that core story aspect, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, I think what Kelly said, not to repeat everything he just said, but definitely everything he just mentioned is definitely the camaraderie and just hanging out with you guys and the hunting group that we formed here, and you guys, let me tag along and join in on the rookie hunter. And I mean, even aside for that, if I wasn't on the podcast, I'd still go hunting with you guys. I mean, you always hear people talk about how hard it is to find compatible hunting partners and people you can be dependent on, organized, got their shit together. And, the older we get, the busier our lives get. So it's nice to go out with people that have everything together, and, you can just ultimately have the fun time hanging out. And I think that's the one thing I miss the most, spending time, whether we kill something or not. It's good to hang out. I mean, I miss it. It's a blast. And then, obviously everything else your guys' podcast did for listeners. I mean, just being authentic and us trying to blaze the trail and figure things out. I mean, we try to be as genuine and honest as we can. So I think that has a lot of weight. I mean, that's one thing I'm super appreciative to be on here and be able to talk and, maybe influence new hunters and maybe old people who are set in their ways, had maybe changed their minds and the way of thinking, and ensure that hunting is just, it stays here for generations to come. And if we can have a voice or a small hand in that, I mean, that's huge. I think that's what you and Mike and Kelly, when I say you guys, I mean, I think that's ultimately your biggest achievement coming on and doing this. So for you guys wanting to do it again, it's huge. And then incorporating me, I mean, that's awesome. That's pretty much all I can say to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with all of that. I mean, I just missed it in general. And I think, like what you guys said, it's the camaraderie of just getting together, man. It's just, I mean, we don't do this otherwise, right? I mean, we all keep in touch. We text each other, but it's not like we set an hour and a half or whatever aside every month to just kind of hang out. We all, have busy lives, and we all are kind of in different areas. I mean, Kelly and I are in the same town, but it's not always easy to get together. I've said this many times, but I'm most proud of our commitment to conservation and the fact that we've inspired a lot of people to get involved with conservation, old hunters and new hunters alike. And when I look back at some of the reviews and stuff on iTunes, a lot of it is like related to people saying that we introduced them to conservation. And so I think that we can be a voice of sort of the modern hunter, if you want to put it that way, and sort of promote a type of hunting that will continue to be sustainable and, a way that's going to keep this around for many, many years to come. I think we have to really rethink some of the things that we used to do back in the day. So I just hope that we can continue to be that voice and promote conservation and get people involved. And yeah, man, like I said, I'm proud of that aspect of it. And I felt like we just, for that reason alone, was worth getting back into it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, and that's why it's exciting to have the Wild Sheep Foundation on board. That was a pretty quick phone call as far as, hey, do you guys want to get involved? It was a quick yes, which means a lot to all of us. And I think that means that they appreciate the message that we're putting out there. And couldn't think of a better organization to work with. The Wild Sheep Foundation is, it's absolutely incredible. And, they trust us, which again means a lot. So yeah, super happy to have them back on board.
Yeah. It says a lot about them too. The fact that they picked us up in the first place, just us doing our thing and, not experts in hunting, not the premier hunting team by any means in terms of, sheep on the ground and anything like that. But I think, they are looking at it from a conservation, like hunting now and in the future, long term. And, what we talk about, I think, is accessible for people that, maybe aren't in those crowds and aren't sheep hunters, and they're having a hard time getting into it, and they think there's a lot of barriers. So, I think that we can kind of be a window into that, into this hunting world for those people. So, and that's what we see in the reviews too, right? Is people saying, I've always wanted to try this. And, it was always hard for me to kind of get over that gap, but kind of following your guys' lead. And then we hear from them and that they get their first animals and their freezers are full. And it's pretty cool to hear that. So, yeah, it's cool they picked us up, and it's cool they're sticking with us. I think it says a lot for the type of efforts and conservation efforts that they're doing as well.
Yeah, we got a message from a guy. I'm sorry, I don't remember what his name was. I think it was on Instagram, and he was saying that he was processing his first 4-point buck and listened to the Rookie Hunter, and was saying how it was kind of full circle for him, which was the title of that last episode. So it was kind of cool to hear that, and congrats to him.
Yeah,
but
totally.
It's just fun to hear that our story is running parallel to a lot of other people's story. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
It's just cool that at least people are listening to this.
The other thing too, I'd like to mention too is, I think you guys have both said it, is just being able to connect with other people too, like-minded people that are into it for the same reasons we are. That's a pretty cool aspect. You're able to plug into different avenues you wouldn't even, dream of. And then you're able to have conversations with these people that are super fascinating.
Yeah.
And make it, just to get on here and talk to different people all over the place about what they do, what motivates them, and everything in between, which is unreal. I love doing that.
Yeah, it's like a perfect excuse to like talk to somebody you find interesting. Because if you just send them a message and said, "Hey, do you want to talk on the phone for an hour?" They'd be like, "No." But if you say, "Hey,
yeah, exactly.
We've got this podcast. Do you mind coming on and chat with us for an hour?" Then they say yes.
Yeah, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
So that's I don't know, I wouldn't call it a bonus, but it's definitely a plus for the podcast.
Yeah, it's a bonus for sure. Yeah.
I think that there's an element of like the podcast that's a bit progressive in that sense, right? Because it's kind of less about hunting and more about just what we're doing, it's that story. So, which is kind of, up until recently, like a lot of the focus has just been on hunting and like what exactly that is, like the act of hunting or pulling the trigger. And I don't think we've ever really been focused on that. So like, no. I think there's a bit of progressiveness in that focus too. So
yeah. And I think it's, to me, I think it's fascinating hearing each and everyone's individual story and how they approach it. How are they brought up into it? What are they doing? What do they want to change? All those things that basically create a story. So, every one of us here, you, Mike, Kelly, we all have a different story on how we found our way into hunting. So I think that part of it's cool too. And you get to navigate that by talking to different people.
Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely. Hey, so I haven't asked you guys what's on tap, and I've done that purposely. We're going to introduce a new segment, which I thought would be kind of fun. And we're calling it Whiskey and Vinyl. So maybe we'll have some kind of music that transitions between the two of them. But Kelly and I talked about this on the last one. We've kind of drifted away from beer. I'm sure it'll make an appearance every once in a while, but we're all drinking different stuff. And music is something that is, it's a connecting line between all three of us. We all play. We're all very into music. So Kelly, you go for it.
Maybe I'll start with the whiskey.
Sure.
I've got some Bushmills Irish whiskey.
Nice. Said it with a slur too. That's nice.
I got that too. Yeah.
It's the world's oldest distillery, actually, for whiskey.
Nice.
1608 vinyl. I'm going with the band.
Nice.
Ooh,
This is it's called Rock of Ages. It's a live album by the band, 1971 New Year's Eve.
Holy shit.
It's just it's probably, well, it is one of my Desert Island albums.
Nice.
So yeah, check this one out. It's unreal. There's a lot of horn sections and stuff in it. It just kind of parties up, what you would hear on a band album.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Robbie Robertson.
Yeah.
So I finished it off. This is the Okanagan Spirits Laird of Fintry. It's a single malt whiskey, but she's no more. They do a
Holy
lottery.
shit, you drank that whole thing already?
No, so I'll explain why it's empty.
Oh,
Actually, there's a little bit in there. I think I'm going to try and get that last bit out. But they do a lottery for this every year. And I can't remember.
Nice.
Actually, it probably says on here. So they make 5,000 bottles, which sounds like a lot. But I guess a lot of people will apply for this lottery. And when you get into it, it just means that you have an opportunity to buy one. It doesn't mean you win one. So this is bottle 1,772 of 5,000 bottles that they made. And I saved it for a year. I didn't know what I was saving it for. But I brought it on the moose hunt. And the night that we got the moose, we cracked it open and there was a little bit left. So I polished that off.
nice.
You know what? We should start a rookie hunter contest where if you win, you have to give us money.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That is a great contest.
Yeah, that's kind of genius. Really. That's good marketing strategy on their part. And then for vinyl, it's Dope Lemon. I don't know have you guys heard of these guys?
No, I've never
I
heard of
have.
it.
Kelly,
Well, you
I've told you about them. They're from
Yeah, it's a good listen.
yeah, Australia. And I don't know, they popped up on my Spotify 3 years ago, and I've kind of been following along with them, and their stuff just keeps getting better and better. That album just came out. And so my girlfriend and I went and saw them at the Orpheum Theater in Vancouver at the end of October. I don't know if you've been in that venue, but it's beautiful. I think you saw Sturgill Simpson there, Kelly.
I did.
Ooh,
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Beautiful old
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
theater. It's like 100 years old, at least, I think. So pretty cool to see them. It's kind of like stoner rock. And actually, the artwork on the actual vinyl is moving artwork. So when you put it on the turntable, the graphics look like they're moving. So it's like a rocket ship that's going around the middle with like clouds of smoke coming out behind it and all this other shit that moves in different directions on the vinyl. It's really cool. I mean, they live up to the name, Dope Lemon.
And what's the style, Mike?
It's just very
what's the...
very chill, like stoner rock is what I would call it, or like I don't know. You can just throw everything as alternative, I guess, but just very laid back. And their live show was really good. They're a really tight band, and everything they played was actually a lot faster than they played on the record, so it had a lot more energy to it. Not that it's like you wouldn't want to listen to it slower on the vinyl. It kind of suits both environments, you know what I mean? So
Gotcha.
really good band, and I don't think they've really been at it for that long, and they're kind of taken off. So cool to see them in a venue like that. They're awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. Garrett, you're up.
I don't own a record player. So
That's okay. You can.
I don't have any vinyl, man.
That's okay.
Although I remember my dad's had like stacks of it. But
Yeah, I have your dad's record player, Garrett.
that's why I don't have any fucking vinyl.
there it
You
goes.
got it.
I asked all you guys. Are like, I mean, if anybody wants it, like, take it. If no one's
You
gonna
didn't
take
ask me. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm also drinking whiskey, so that's good that we're all on the whiskey train here.
Yeah.
But I'm drinking Glenlivet 12-year.
Mm.
It's always good
Nice.
once
Some
it gets
Scotch.
colder out. Yeah, some Scotch
Yeah.
whiskey. It's always tasty. And then for music, I was crushing a lot of Tool because I came back from a concert out in Spokane from Tool, which was unreal. Those guys, I mean, it's amazing. They're unbelievable. But I have switched over to the new Chris Stapleton album.
Oh, nice.
Which
It's very good.
I've been crushing that, doing chores around the house. So it's been going nonstop.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
trying to remember the name of the song, but there's one off the new record that I've been playing on drums quite a bit. It's got a cool groove to it. What the hell is it called?
Is it that fire one?
No,
The White Horse?
no. Hold on, I'll find it.
The vocals at the end of Higher, or just like throughout Higher, are just unreal.
Is that what
But
that?
I
Yeah.
pretty much say that for every song he does.
Yeah, I just, it's been playing nonstop. I just put
I think I'm in love with you. That's the one. It was one of the first singles that came out, I think. It's
Nice.
just got a
Oh,
cool groove to it. So I've been
well,
jamming
now that
that
you
on the
mentioned
drums.
that, I'll definitely listen to it a little closer.
Yeah. Yeah, Tool, Garrett, how was that? I've seen them a couple of times, and both times they were just, I left there just being like, what the fuck did I just see? Like, these guys are aliens.
Mhm.
How's that even possible?
I know, like, Danny Carey there, everyone's like, oh, but it's amazing how much the bass player contributes as well as the guitar player, like how tight they are with that guy. I mean, no discredit to Maynard, but my God, those other two guys up front there, like
Yeah.
The band is so tight when they play. It's
Mhm.
so technical.
Yeah. If you remove Maynard, which you never would do, but think
Yeah.
of them as a three-piece and the wall of sound that those three guys make just on their instruments. And then you add in the
It's
vocals on top of
insane.
that, and it's just next level. But what those guys can do.
That bass player rips, man. That guy
Yeah,
rips.
he does.
I had no idea he was that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're all good. I mean, they're yeah. There's a reason why they're putting out that kind of quality.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
They were in Kelowna, but that's actually the day I flew out to Vancouver to see Dope Lemon. So I traded Dope Lemon for Tool.
Well, you've seen them a couple times already, though, right?
Yeah.
I think I've seen Tool a couple times too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Unreal.
awesome. Yeah, I would go many more times for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. I was thinking at some point we'll do a Guilty Pleasures track too. It could be kind of fun. I know we got a few.
Okay.
That's the nice thing about getting older is you'll listen to some of your girlfriend or your wife's tunes. You're like, actually, I really like that. And you wouldn't admit it necessarily in your, as a teenager in your early 20s. So
we're going to admit it to everybody over the podcast.
Yeah. But we'll leave that for next time.
I'm almost to the point, like, what is the guilty pleasure? Maybe they're, like, to me, there's just none anymore, It's just like,
yeah,
I like this.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I was running to some tunes today. I'm like, oh, this is interesting, but I like this.
I guess it's like that line of, for you, would you roll the windows down and blast it or not?
Yeah, that's true.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So we're closing up on an hour here. Not that we need to rush out of here, but one of the questions that we all get asked a lot, so we might be repeating ourselves, but I think it changes a little bit from time to time. What are some of like the most valuable lessons that you guys have learned over the years?
I think the biggest thing now, like I touched on a little bit earlier on the podcast, is that, the older we get, the more precious our time is out in the field, doing these things. And I think the one thing that I really hone in on is making sure that all my shit is organized and I'm punctual and that I'm not going to flake out on people. And when I do show up, I got all my shit together. So ultimately we can just cash in on the most amount of fun, the time that we do have out there hanging out, hunting, if you want to call it that, or, it's just making sure everything's aligned up and you're going to come when you're going to come. And when you're out there, everyone's dialed in and you just take advantage of having, the best time without running into a whole bunch of hurdles that you could have avoided. I think that's the biggest thing, man, for me, because time is like, you just don't have a lot of time to go and do everything you want. You can dream up a pile of stuff, but when the rubber meets the pavement, it's, you just want to make sure you don't screw it up.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, man. I know all the hunts that we've done. I think that's why we're a good hunting team, is that even without like really making a plan, we kind of all know what needs to be done the moment we arrive at camp, or if we're moving to a new camp or whatever, and sort of everybody just taking a job and like getting whatever the task is. If it's firewood or setting up a shelter, everybody just kind of starts working rather than being like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like we don't really,
Totally.
we just kind of click that way because we've done it so many times. And I mean, Garrett, you and I have been camping since we were kids together. And, but you're right though, man, it just saves so much time and messing around when you come in there, you know what you need to do to get that task out of the way, which is usually shelter and fire. And, the rest is just enjoying it basically. So that's a great point, man.
Exactly. All that stuff. I mean, I'm even talking even when you're in the planning stage. I mean, there's a difference between dreaming and actually putting stuff together that we can all accomplish and do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it starts before the heart, like before even the hunt starts itself. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Kelly, what do you got?
I was going to kind of go back to the beginning of the story and just, realizing what hunting is compared to what I thought it was. Because I didn't start until I was about 29, 30 years old. So yeah, I thought, I can still remember what it was like to not be a hunter. And, the activity just, I don't think you realize the depth of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You just kind of see the surface of it. And the surface of it is maybe not, well, it's probably not what you want most people to think of when you're hunting. It's not what we think of, but like it's that whole depth. And then once you kind of, once you try it, it's kind of like jumping into a pool, right? And then you kind of see everything that's involved, and that's how that's generally why people get hooked so hard, I think, is because it's just an eye opener. So like, I think that's probably the biggest lesson for me. I guess a more recent one is just physical, like, and just like the knowing that you can't just take it for granted and go out there and just be like, I'm going to do this hunt, and you can kind of get away with it in your 20s, I think. But I think I realize I'm not at that point, and, I've got to put some work in ahead of time. So, that's a pretty important lesson for me too.
Yeah, man, I think that's a cool place to be in. I've always sort of thought of us being new hunters as like being on two sides of the fence. So, we were on the other side of it, and we're looking across at this thing that we didn't really understand. And we slowly crossed over it and started to figure things out and sort of like clear some of the cloudiness of what our sort of perception of it was, which I think is the way a lot of people see it. Like people that don't hunt, they kind of see a lot of the bad sides of it. And a lot of that goes away as you sort of hop over that fence. But the nice thing is we can still kind of look back and think about the way we say things and how somebody who's on the other side of the fence still might interpret what we're saying. So if we can do a better job of being like describing the story rather than just the kill itself or whatever it might be, sort of the gory shit, and more of the actual reasons. I mean, everything that isn't that moment, you know what I mean? It's all the other stuff that is really important, I think, which we've talked about a bit. But
Totally. I can agree with Kelly too.
Yeah, those two perspectives and keeping your old perspective kind of close at heart and think about that and how other people might be thinking about what we're doing and being respectful to those people too.
Totally.
If that made any sense, but
it does. I look like what Kelly said. I definitely had when I was looking at hunting, it's changed in that aspect as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something we'll talk more about. Totally different from what you guys are saying. One of the things I realized, because I didn't hunt much at all over the last couple of years, was going back to some of these old spots. And I mean, I've talked about that a little bit. These spots that were really amazing spots full of deer, and then coming back to them 2 years later or 3 years later and expecting to see the same results. But so much changes in that short amount of time when you look at like vegetation and so much. I mean, maybe there's more people in these areas. Maybe there's more predators in the area, but you can't just like rest on these places. They change and you have to keep changing with them. And I mean, we get a lot of fires that come through here now. That's changing a lot of the landscape, which, I mean, there's pros and cons. I think there's a lot of pros to that too. But I think it's just making me more open to trying new areas and different tactics and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really interesting to kind of step away from it and then come back into it and be like, wow, this is amazing. Because you don't really notice all those subtle changes when you're out there every day. You don't notice how fast the trees are growing and all that kind of stuff and all those little little subtleties in nature that are changing all the time. So it's kind of neat to see it from that angle too. So yeah, you can't hang up your hat on one area.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm a victim of that too. I know where to go, and sometimes it's hard to break the old routine.
Yeah.
Or at least I think I know where to go. I know where to go in terms of navigating my way in there, not so much on if there's going to be game in there or not, but sometimes I just default to the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And some of
it's
that
nice,
is,
like you said,
it's like a connection to that area. It's like an old friend, you know what I mean? You want to go back and visit it and see what's going on, but you kind of hope it's still the same way that it used to be when you fell in love with it in the first place, but it's not the same.
I think it's more so that than it is thinking I'm going to go up there and harvest an animal.
Yeah. So even though I didn't see anything in those areas, I really enjoyed going back to them and checking them out. Lots of new country.
Yeah,
to
you
visit.
never know. And it's cyclical, I guess. You never know.
Yeah.
Things can all shift back or whatever.
Absolutely.
But
I did an interview with Robert Soroya. He's the caribou guy I interviewed for Faces of Wildlife. And I asked him a question. I think I've brought this up before, but I asked him about like trying to like help find a balance in nature with like conservation and stuff like that. And his response is really cool. He said there is no balance in nature. He said it's a pendulum that swings back and forth, which is a brilliant way to look at it. So sometimes there's going to be a ton of moose, but with a ton of moose becomes more predators. So, you know, if wolves have a lot of things to feast on, then the wolf population is going to get big, but eventually that big wolf population is going to eat all of that moose, and they're going to start to die off. And when the wolves start to die off, then the moose are going to start to come back. So, I mean, it just like keeps going back and forth. So, I mean, I don't know what the time span is on an area, but maybe in 5 years from now, it's going to be back to where it was when we first started going in there. So it's really interesting. You just can't expect it to stay the same all the time because there's so many variables, but that's a really cool way to look at it. It's like a breathing thing.
Yeah, it's a good positive way of looking at it. Sometimes all you hear is like doom and gloom, how it's going away forever. I know I've definitely heard that wave, but I don't believe it. But yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, you just got to give it time and leave it alone sometimes, and it'll repair itself.
Yeah.
I think we're getting better at seeing, what areas hold animals, because just noticing that there's food around and, what elevation it's at and et cetera, et cetera. Like we can kind of see like, the food doesn't look that great here anymore, like for whatever reason, or it will go into a new area. And it's like, we were talking about cuts last time, right? It's like if you put 3 different cuts in front of you, each one's a bit different. One of them might look amazing and has a ton of food in it. The other one looks like just nothing would live there,
Yeah.
So I think we're getting a bit better too at spotting some of those signs, which takes time.
And it even goes back to like looking at what the spring is like. And I know if it's a very good wildflower year in the springtime, that often means it's going to be a good year for deer and stuff like that because they really rely on those early things. And so, it's really cool to look at the big picture. And I mean, a hard winter is going to be hard on them too. And it's, you can just walk out there and expect it to be the same as it was last year. So
no, totally.
Yeah, you learn so much. I think that's the coolest part of it all.
Totally.
Yeah.
And knowing when to go.
Yeah.
You go to the same spot when it's beginning of October. It can be completely different at the end of October when there's snow or the weather's changed and, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, I like fishing a lot, right? And it's kind of a similar story because, you'll go out in the winter time and you can run lines up top on the surface and you'll crush, you get big trout, 5, 10, 15 pound trout in Okanagan Lake. And then as things warm up again, the fish start dropping a bit. You get ant hatches in June. You have all these little things that happen. And if you got all that stuff dialed and you got your logbook, you can pretty much, smoke fish all the time. It's figuring out that puzzle. Summer hits and all of a sudden you're down at like 60, 80 feet. But yeah, I think it's all similar with ungulates too. Just figuring out those patterns. And yeah, it's fun to just pay attention for sure. I mean, admittedly, we don't do a ton of scouting either, right?
No,
I mean, on the scale of,
part.
People that do a ton of scouting and us, I think we're more on the not doing much scouting side,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
fine. Like, we go out there and we have our fun and we do our thing and we kind of know where we're planning. Like, we don't go in there blind, but
Right.
I also think there's probably like a ton of room for extra time out there. It's just that you're picking and choosing, what you're going to spend that time on, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
In a vacuum, I'd probably be out there every day, but obviously
Totally.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I say, oh yeah, I mean, what you're talking about with the fishing thing, like Mike mentioned, like we grew up hanging out all the time and Mike's dad was a master at that. And at lots of times, we
on
didn't
the
even
river.
we didn't even pay attention to it, but that guy knew when it was changing what to do and he could find fish.
Yeah.
He was great at doing it. Yeah. And I know I wish I would have paid more attention to what he was doing during the times we were up there. Me and Mike were just, we were kids, but that guy could find fish, man. And he caught a lot of them.
Yeah. And there's something about it, man. Like just being successful like that when you know what's going to happen and you're successful, and it's just validating.
Like, to put some more, weight to that, Mike grew up on the river. So his dad had that ability to put a lot of time into the river. I think about it now, how good he was at it. And I think that had a lot to do with it. Like he lived there. He could do it. So it goes back to you guys like wanting to scout and that.
Yeah.
You just got to put yourself out there that much more.
Yeah. I mean, for him, just it was in the backyard, walk down some stairs and in the boat and you're out there.
Like even to the point where like he even tried to go get a bigger boat and he said, nope, don't need that. I just need a little tinner with this size horsepower motor, and that's exactly what I need, and I can catch as many fish as I want within the limits. And he did. Totally. He would catch his limit.
Yeah, every single time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the frustrating part was like Garrett and I would go up there and fish with him, and then I'd take the boat up. Garrett and I would go. We would use the exact same shit he was using, and we would catch nothing, man. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Anchor in the same spot on the river, and it's the same eddies, the same everything. It's just like, what? So he was a master of it for sure. And that's just comes.
But even like to more of that, like, that river is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And kind of like what Kelly's saying with the lake, it's changing. And if you don't know how to change with it, well, you're not catching shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm going to look for. I'm really looking to do in preparation for next fall in, our general hunting, whether it's muleys or whatever, is to really find one or two spots and just spend, early spring, summer, right up to early fall, put some cams up there, see what's happening. I love looking at pictures of cams, even if it's never actually worked out for me, but I just love seeing what's up there. Just focusing on one or two spots, even one spot, and just making it like those steps that Dale went down to get into his boat, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know an area before we hunt it for once.
Yeah. And he logged the hours going up that river. Like he knew, like if the river was a certain height, he knew which eddies you can fish, and then when it wasn't, and he just knew what to do when it was changing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he kept a journal for a long time too. So that's probably a good thing to do. Make note of everything. Yeah. Moon phases and vegetation and everything, man.
Do you have those, Mike?
I'm sure they're somewhere. My mom's probably got them. Yeah.
Nice. You should look for those.
Yeah, I should.
Maybe there's some hunting info in there too.
Yeah, I bet you there is. I remember tying my first fly in your guys' basement.
Yeah,
he had that thing set up when we tied our own flies and we went out there and we tried. I'm not sure if we caught fish. I bet you we caught some fish, but
I'm sure,
your dad, I remember your dad being like super encouraging, was like, it doesn't matter what it looks like, you get it together. You never know what they're going to bite.
Yeah, that's true.
But he had us with the right colors and all that, even though he was saying, doesn't matter what it's like. He pretty much paved the road.
I think it was the river moth.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. He got both. I mean, I tied a ton of those things.
We sat down, we tied up those flies, and we were just itching to get out and try them, slay some fish.
Yeah.
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 Nice.
Had the feathers and all that kind of shit down there. And that's fun. Yeah. One more question before we go. Since this is kind of like a bit of a rewind episode, you guys got a favorite memory from our years hunting together?
I would say elk camp.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
And I say elk camp, not elk hunt, because the actual hunt, I don't think it happened until like the 6th day, last minutes, right? So really the whole trip was an elk camp and we had a ton of fun there. That was my first time hunting in a wall tent too.
Yeah.
And, there's, and in grizzly country, just the whole atmosphere of it and like where we were and who we were with. Kevin was with us too. We had a good group. We had lots of laughs. We got to like test out a lot of our thinking and gear for the first time. And the craziest thing is we were successful at the end, which still boggles my mind. But that was just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
So that still holds the top spot for me, I think.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the exact same thing. And there's 3 or 4 very distinct memories. And it was the day that we got there and like the torrential downpour. You and Kev were like back at camp, like digging trenches. Garrett and I were out getting firewood, and Garrett almost got killed by a falling tree. And then cut to the next day when we were out there trying to get up in the Alpine, and we got into all that snow, which was really crazy, just really intense weather. But we were actually all well dressed for it, so it was fun to kind of be out in the elements like that and be prepared for it. But that was the end of our so-called goat hunt. That was why we were up there. But then cutting to packing out the elk and having all of us had a quarter in our backpack. And I remember coming from in a kind of it was a pretty difficult area to get down to. It was really steep. We hiked out of that and then got up into a cut, and the moon was out and it kind of lit up the whole cut. And I could just see the silhouette of everybody and like the headlamps on and stuff like that. And it was just a very cool moment, just kind of taking it all in. It was pretty wild. And then,
that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. You know what, Mike? I don't know if I ever posted a photo of that with the headlamps. Maybe I did. But I did stumble across a photo on my computer of the headlamps on the...
Oh, I know which photo you're talking about.
All you could see was these 3 dots and then just the shadow silhouette of the antlers because we were at the truck.
Right.
Nice.
But yeah, anyways, I stumbled across that a couple days ago.
Yeah. And the other thing I remember too is when we took the first pack loads out, came back down, and it was getting quite dark, especially in the timber at that point. And there was this log, and it looked exactly like a bear. Like it had an eye, everything. Yeah. And I remember, I think Garrett noticed it.
Garrett loaded his rifle.
Oh yeah, and I think I had mine ready too, maybe. And just that feeling of like, holy. And I remember just looking at it and like, is that a bear? And the more I looked at it, the more it looked like a bear. And it's just that weird amount of light where you just can't piece it together, but everything resembled a bear. And then we're just looking at it. We're like, that's a fucking log. But heart was racing, and it was intense for a minute there because it was right where the kill was. So that was intense.
Like you guys have talked about this before, but that happened a long time ago, and it's crazy how vivid our memories are. I remember all that crisp in my, and when you and Kelly were in that different spot and that all that went down, the elk was on the ground, me and Kevin were together, and I remember looking at him like I get to like key my mic and radio these guys and let them know we got an elk. Like just me and him like laughing, looking at each other, smiling. Like I couldn't even get it out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Just, like,
and then it was dead.
Up. It was dead. Yeah. I know.
That's a whole other part of the story too. That people can go listen to.
That definitely, that hunt was 100%. I mean, I keep hearing you guys talk about wall. You guys like the wall tents, eh? That's something.
I like that.
It's a good vibe. It's comfy. I like that one too, but I also with Kevin. But when we went on that first sheep hunt and all of us were staying in that shelter together, the 8-man Kafaru, and we're staying by that creek the whole time, and the 3 of us trying to figure out how the hell we're going to get in these mountains and that little stove going. Man, that was pretty wild. You've put yourself in wild places.
Yeah.
Not to quote Donnie Vincent here, but that was pretty killer. Being out there, we were miles and miles away from anything. Couldn't drive anywhere. We were stuck way out there, sleeping in that thing, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that was pretty wild, man. That was killer.
Yeah. I mean, and both of those trips were kind of like a perfect shit show. Just a gong show, really. That somehow we pulled off and turned into great trips,
Yeah.
That's what makes it fun, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's I was going for a memory with the 3 of us. I would say like another one, and maybe more like with other folks would be the moose hunt for sure with my dad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then Garrett, when we were in the wall tent, and it was your moose tag, or sorry, your father-in-law's moose tag.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
And we did that moose hunt the year or two before that. But my dad came up for that too, so
That's right.
He got to experience the wall tent thing, and we spent a ton of nights in there, just telling stories with your family, and my dad was there too, so that was awesome.
It definitely it creates a vibe, that wall tent. It's like a portable cabin.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and then when we went on the elk hunt, even with your dad too, when he came, we had tunes going. We had, I mean, we've talked about it before on the podcast, but it definitely adds a certain texture to the hunt.
That's a perfect word. And also, like, it can keep you going.
Oh yeah.
Like there was never a time where I was like, I wonder when this hunt, are we going to make it to the end of this hunt or whatever? Or look how wet I am. It's just like, you know what? We're going back to the wall tent. We'll have a good night. We're right back at it tomorrow. It's just, you can do that for a month straight if you wanted to.
I remember like my dad and them, when he would take me as a kid, they'd be like, if we wait another half hour, the guys will be back at the wall tent. The stove will be lit. Everything will be going. Then we'll go back and hang out and everything will be ready. Literally, they would do that. They would wait longer to see, because they knew other people would go back there first, light the fire, get the generator going, get the tunes going, mix the drinks. It is. It's a mobile cabin, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's tough not to pack all that stuff too. You're like, I'll just bring whatever sleeping bag, put it up. No, you got to bring the whole kit caboodle, because that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah. And that's why, you need space. I mean, I don't think you could do a wall tent with just like one truck and no trailer to put stuff in, and, maybe even multiples, right? Like, you're bringing a lot of stuff out there.
Oh man, that is the Achilles tendon of it. It's just a ton of shit you got to bring. That is the only drawback. It's totally worth, once you get all set up, but man, is it a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Just totes of shit you got to drag out. And aside from that, once you get it all set up and going, you're like, oh, this is easy living.
Yeah. Worth it.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Cool, boys. Well, I think that's a good place to end her off, unless there's anything else you guys want to add.
No, it's just good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to be back, man. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, till next time. Cheers, boys.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.
There you go. Episode 141. All three of us enjoyed that very much, and we can't wait to bring you more. So like I said, we're going to be back every single week. So you can expect to see us on your phone, wherever you listen to podcasts from next week, and every week thereafter. Again, if you want to be a part of the show, we would love to hear your voice, your actual voice on the show. All you have to do is record a voice memo on your phone and send it to us, info@therookihunter.com. I hope that those start landing in our inbox. We'd love to hear from you guys. But again, you can always just reach out to us, info@therookihunter.com. Send us a message. Get in touch with us on Instagram. And we do have a website with all of our episodes up there too, therookihunter.com. And before we sign off, please remember to go to wildsheepfoundation.org and consider becoming a member with them. So thank you guys again for all of your support. It's great to be back. We'll see you next week. Cheers.